Morning to everyone. So we have quite a crowd on the Zoom today. Tomorrow night is Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon. Friday and Shabbos. We're all very well aware of the statement of our sages, Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha. The month of Adar comes in, we increase in joy. In fact, it's a Gemara in Tainus. Tainus is a sechta that talks about fasting. Why is the very joyous statement of Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha? Why is it Tainus? Because it's actually a commentary on the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, Mishanichnas of Mishpatim. When the month of Av comes in, you decrease in joy. The Gemara says, Kishem Mishanichnas of Mishpatim. This is when the month of Av comes in, you decrease in joy. Ach Mishanichnas Adar Marbin. So when the month of Adar comes in, we increase in joy. So, question that obviously people want to know is, does it apply to the first Adar as well? Or does it only apply to an Adar that has Purim in it? Adar Hasamach L'Nisan, as the Gemara calls it. Adar, which is next to Nisan. So the best place to look for the answer is in the original source in the Gemara. So as I said, the Gemara says, Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha. So the basic commentary on Gemara is Rashi. So Rashi says, Mishanichnas Adar, what's the Yom Tov Mishanichnas Adar? Why when the month of Adar comes in? So he says, Yemein Nisim Hayu Yisrael. There were days of miracles for the Jewish people. Purim uPesach. Purim and Pesach. So at first glance, Rashi's answered our question. We want to know if Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha applies to the first Adar as well as not or not. So Rashi says right away, why do we increase in joy when Adar comes? Because the days of miracles for the Jewish people, Purim and Pesach. In the first Adar, we don't celebrate Purim, and we definitely don't celebrate Pesach. So if we don't have a Purim and we don't have a Pesach, then it's what kind of a Mishanichnas Adar is it? So at first glance, the impression that we would get from Rashi's commentary is that Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha only applies to the Adar that is next to the month of Nisan. It should be on a regular year, the regular Adar, and on a leap year, the second Adar. However, if we delve a little bit more deeply into Rashi, we might come to a different conclusion. That is, I mentioned before that Rashi says, Yemein Nisim Hayu Yisrael, Purim uPesach. The reason we increase in joy when the month of Adar comes in is because there were days of miracles for people, Purim uPesach. So the obvious question is, when is the last time that Pesach fell in the month of Adar? Pesach doesn't fall in the month of Adar, Pesach falls in the month of Nisan. So why should we increase in joy when the month of Adar comes in? Because Purim uPesach, Yemein Nisim Hayu Yisrael, Purim uPesach. What's Pesach doing? Pesach got nothing to do with the month of Adar. So the commentaries struggle with this Rashi. The difficult Rashi quotes the Gemara, Mishanichnas Adar, when the month of Adar comes in. And he says, why when the month of Adar comes in is it something special? Because there were days of miracles for the Jewish people, Purim and Pesach. Well, Purim, we understand, is connected with the month of Adar. What does Pesach have to do with the month of Adar? So, as I said, different commentaries that try to give their explanation for why Rashi says this Purim and Pesach. One of the commentaries is the Elya Rabbi, who says that the reason Rashi says Purim and Pesach is because he's concerned, he's bothered by the question, why should you only increase in joy when Purim comes in? Why shouldn't you also increase in joy when the month of Nisan comes in? Why only when Adar comes in, also when the month of Nisan comes in? After all, Nisan is the month of Pesach. Pesach is a great miracle. Jewish people liberated from slavery in Egypt. Surely we should increase in joy also in the month of Nisan. So therefore, Rashi says, Yemein Nisim Hayu Yisrael, Purim uPesach. Because you're right. You increase in joy when the month of Adar comes in, and you continue with the same spirit of joy into the month of Nisan as well. Because Pesach is also a big Yom. However, this is a difficult explanation. Because according to this explanation, you have connections, they look at this. According to this explanation, there's a little bit of a problem, and that is because according to this explanation, it seems that Rashi is trying to teach us a new halacha. The halacha is Mishanichnas Adar Marbin. The month of Adar comes in, you increase in joy. And it has certain ramifications, not only about joy, but the Gemara continues that therefore, if one is involved in a lawsuit with a Gentile, so one should avoid dealing with it in the month of Av, and one should try to push it into the month of Adar. Because the month of Adar is a month of Mazeldik month for you. So the question is, according to Rashi, it doesn't have to be a month of Adar; it could be a month of Nisan as well. That's halachically significant. So if Rashi wants to teach us a new halacha that Mishanichnas Adar Marbe B'Simcha continues also in the month of Nisan, he should have said so clearly. Since he doesn't say so clearly, we suspect that he's not trying to teach us this halacha. So what does Rashi mean when he says that the reason that when the month of Adar comes in, we increase in joy, is because there were days of miracles for the Jewish people, Purim and Pesach. So there is, I think it's Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz, or Rabbi Yaakov Emden, Rabbi Yaakov Emden, who says that it gives another explanation. It says what's bothering Rashi over here is a simple question. Why only Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha? Why do we increase in joy only when the month of Adar comes in? Why don't we also increase in joy when the month of Kislev comes in? After all, Chanukah is a big yom tov. And we should say Mishanichnas Kislev Marbin B'Simcha. So Rashi says because when Kislev, Chanukah is a big yom tov, but it's very isolated. Nothing special before it, nothing special after it. But Purim is a big yom tov, and immediately afterwards comes Pesach. So since there's one miracle after Purim u Pesach, that's why Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha, because there's miracles one after the other. That explains why in the month of Adar, not the month of Kislev. You could really approach this from a different angle. And that is, ask a simple question. Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha means that as soon as the month of Adar comes in, you immediately increase in joy. And why? The miracle of Purim didn't happen on Rosh Chodesh Adar. The miracle of Purim only happened on the 13th of Adar. And even though they already wrote it, from the 23rd of Sivan, they were already instructed Achashverosh to write the second set of letters that gave the Jewish people the right of self-defense. But we know that even after those letters were sent out by Mordechai and Esther, that the Achashverosh had agreed to grant the Jewish people the right of self-defense on the 13th of Adar, it still didn't mean that they were safe. Because it meant that the Gentiles who were anti-Semites, wanted to destroy the Jewish people, had the full right to carry out their intentions. And the Jewish people had the right of self-defense. So it was going to be a war. And if there's a war, you never know what the results will be. You never know how many casualties there'll be. So until the 13th of Adar came along, events actually played themselves out the way they did, there was a lot of tension. There wasn't such great simcha. So why didn't we say that Mishanichnas Adar Marbin B'Simcha, as soon as the month of Adar comes in, we increase in joy? The miracle didn't happen at the beginning of Adar. The miracle only happened on the 13th of Adar. So perhaps we should wait to increase in joy until the 13th of Adar. Why Mishanichnas Adar? The first half of the month wasn't so simple. And really, this question is not just on the Gemara. This question is really on the pasuk in the Megillah. Because the pasuk in the Megillah says, "V'hachodesh asher nefach," that the month was transformed into a month of joy. Again, the same question. What do you mean the month was transformed into a month of joy? The month wasn't the month of joy. The first 13 days of the month were very intense. It's only after the battle that took place on the 13th of Adar. The Megillah says, "When Noach ba'arba'asar," they rested on the 15th. And in Shushan, they fought for 2 days, the 13th and 14th, and rested on the 15th. And only then the day of feasting and rejoicing. So why does the Megillah say the whole month is transformed? Actually, this is pertinent in halacha, because it says in the Yerushalmi in the Jerusalem Talmud that if a person knows that he won't be able to get hold of a Megillah on Purim, but he has access to a Megillah before Purim, so it says that even from the beginning of the month of Adar, you could read the Megillah. And in Shulchan Aruch, the Rambam says, "V'hachi nohu." This is the custom. This is the accepted custom. If someone won't have a Megillah on Purim, he can read the Megillah from the beginning of that. Why? Because it says in the pasuk, the entire month was transformed into joy. So the question is, why is the entire month transformed into joy? Miracle didn't happen until the 13th. So perhaps we can find the answer to this question by asking another question. That is, we mentioned before, the Gemara says, the Mishnah says, Mishanichnas Av Mematim. The month of Av comes in, we decrease in joy, diminish the joy. Then the Gemara says, Geshem Shemishanichnas Av Mematim B'Simcha, Kach Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. Just like when the month of Av comes in, we diminish the joy, so when the month of Adar comes in, we increase the joy. So the question is, why specifically the month of Av, Mishanichnas Av Mematim B'Simcha? Is it because a calamity befell the Jewish people in the month of Av? There are other months of the year when the calamities also befell the Jews. For example, the month of Tammuz. Shavasar b'Tammuz, calamities befell the Jews. So why don't we say Mishanichnas Tammuz Mematim B'Simcha because it's Shavasar b'Tammuz? Why only Mishanichnas Av? So if we look carefully at the uniqueness of Tisha B'Av, so we find two characteristics in Tisha B'Av which are very unique. The first thing is, in the words of the Gemara, there's a repetitive tzaras happening. The first Beis Hamikdash was destroyed. The second Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, and the city of Beitar was destroyed. And there's various events in the history of the Jewish people, calamities that took place on Tisha B'Av, including the expulsion from Spain in 1492, including the outbreak of the First World War. Various things that happened on Tisha B'Av throughout history that make it a day of repetitive tzara. The second thing is, if a calamity happens on a certain day, there's two ways to approach it. One way to approach it is, calamity happened on this day, so we commemorate this calamity by being sad on that day. Another way to approach it is, maybe the day itself is a problem with the day. The day itself is a challenging day. It's a Yom Chayet, and it attracts calamities. Now, when it comes to Tisha B'Av, the Gemara clearly says the reason that the second Beis Hamikdash was also destroyed on Tisha B'Av is because Megaldu and Zchut Yom Zaka, meritorious events are rolled into a meritorious day, and problematic events are rolled into a problematic day. So Tisha B'Av attracts calamity. It's not just that it happened that the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed on Tisha B'Av. It's a Yom Chayim. It's a problematic day. And actually, it goes back a very, very long way. Because the Talmud tells us that the Meraglim, the spies that Moshe Rabbeinu sent to the land of Canaan, they returned on the 8th of Av. That's when they delivered their report that the Canaanites are so strong and the cities are so heavily fortified and there's giants there and it's impossible to conquer the land. They're stronger even than him with the capital A. And the Jewish people believed their report and they cried. And they said, we want to go back to Egypt. What's going to be? We're going to go to the land of Canaan and we're going to be killed and our wives and children will be taken as captive. And what's the point? So Hashem said to the Jewish people, you cried, Bechia shel chinam, atam bechisa bechia shel chinam. You cried in vain, for nothing. But it says, Vayivko ha'am b'laylahu, that night the Jewish people cried. That night was the night of Tisha. Hashem said to the Jewish people, you cried for nothing, because you should have trusted the fact that if I said, I'm going to take you into the land of flowing with milk and honey, I will definitely be able to deliver on my promise. Just like I took you out of Egypt and I thrust you to that sea, I can take you into the land of Canaan as well. Nothing to cry about. You cried for nothing. Therefore, I will fix this night for you as a night of crying for all people. So we see that Tisha B'Av is a problematic date. Way back when. It's not that a calamity befell us on Tisha B'Av, and therefore it's a sad day. Tisha B'Av is a problematic day that attracts calamity. So in those two ways, the month of Av is unique. First of all, there's repetitive calamities. And second of all, it's essentially a problematic time. So if the Gemara says, Kishem shemishanichnas Av mematim, just like when the month of Av comes in, we diminish it. Kach mishanichnas Adar marbim b'simcha. So when the month of Adar comes in, we increase the joy. So the Gemara compares the two. So it must be that Adar is the other side of the spectrum. Adar has both the advantage that it has repetitive miracles, as well as the fact that it's a mazel time. It's not just that it happens to be that the miracle of Purim happened in Adar, and therefore we rejoice. The miracle of Purim happened in Adar because Adar is a mazel time. What makes Adar a mazel time? What makes it such a special and auspicious? So really, there's a story in the Gemara in Megillah which gives it away. The Gemara in Megillah says, we all know, Haman threw lots, right? That's why the Yom Tov is called Purim. Purim means lots. Haman threw lots. The Yom LeYom, U'meichaydish l'chaydish. The lots went from day to day, from month to month. Chaydish name also, Chaydish Av, to the 12th month, which is the month of Av. So Haman's lots fell the month of Av. So the Gemara says, Samach Haman simcha g'day. Haman was over the top. He was excited. He was rejoicing. He was somersaulting down the streets. What's the simcha? He said, Nafali pur b'yerach shabes beinish. My lots fell on the month of Moshe Rabbeinu's passing. Moshe Rabbeinu passed away in Zayin Adar. That's obviously a very unlucky month for the Jewish people. So that's a sign that I will succeed in getting my plot fulfilled. God forbid, to annihilate the Jewish people. It all works out for me. Look at this. My lots fell in the month that Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. It means it's an unlucky month for the Jewish people. The Gemara says, but Haman didn't realize Shiva ba'adar mace. True, Moshe Rabbeinu passed away on the 7th of Adar. But Shiva ba'adar noilad, he also was born on the 7th of Adar. And the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was born on the 7th of Adar is an incredibly powerful thing. To the extent that the Gemara says, Rashi says, that the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu was so powerful that it wipes away anything negative which could have come out from the passing of Moshe, is wiped away, is cancelled out by the birth of Moshe. When Moshe Rabbeinu was born, the Smali Habayis Kulayeda, right? The whole house was filled with light. Moshe Rabbeinu brought to the world incredible light. After all, through his birth came Exodus from Mitzrayim and giving of the Torah and everything. The birth of Moshe Rabbeinu was an incredible event. So Haman didn't realize that true Moshe Rabbeinu passed away in the month of Adar. He didn't realize that Moshe Rabbeinu was also born in the month of Adar. So what's the impression you get from this Gemara? What was the secret that brought about the salvation of the Jewish people in the story of Purim? There was the merit of the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu in the month of Adar, Zayin Adar. So Zayin Adar brought about the miracle of Purim. So if that, and therefore, what did Zayin Adar achieve? Zayin Adar it showed that not like Haman thought that it's an unlucky month for the Jewish people, just the opposite. It's a very fortunate month for the Jews. It's a very lucky month for the Jews. And that's what brought about the miracle of Purim. So if that's the case, we now understand the two very unique characteristics of the month of Adar. The first unique characteristic of the month of Adar is that it's a Zman Zakai. It's a meritorious time. Because of Zayin Adar, it becomes a meritorious time. It attracts salvation. It attracts redemption. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu was born in Zayin Adar makes the month of Adar a month that the whole month is a mazel. The second thing is, how many miracles came out of Zion? First, we know the miracle of Purim. And we also know that the miracle of Pesach came out of Zion. There's a whole story of the Exodus from Egypt. Starts, Vayelech ish mi beis Levi, vayikach hasbas Levi. A man went from the tribe of Levi, and he married the daughter of Levi, and she became pregnant. She gave birth to a son. They tried to hide him for 3 months. They could no longer hide him. They put him in a basket. The daughter of Pharaoh came along and saved him. And that's the beginning of the story of the Exodus. So the whole story of Pesach also comes from Zion. So therefore, Rashi says on the words, Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, Rashi says, why when Adar comes in, do you increase the joy? Because Yemein Nisim Hayu Yisrael Purim uPesach. There's 2 festivals, there's 2 miracles that came as a result of Zayin Adar. The miracle of Purim and the miracle of Pesach. So it's repetitive miracles. So first of all, it's repetitive miracles. Just like the month of Av is repetitive calamity, so the month of Adar is repetitive. Second of all, it's essentially a time of mazel. It's an auspicious time. And this starts right away. Misha nichnas Adar. As soon as Adar comes in, you already increase in joy because the Zion Adar aspect of the month of Adar makes the entire month a mazel dik month. So even if the miracle in practice didn't actually happen until the 13th of Adar, but that's only a technicality. It was there to happen. It was meant to happen already from the beginning of the month because Adar is a freiliche mazel dik month for you. Zion Adar versus Mishpatim. One minute. Get it. So if that's the case, that what makes Adar special, makes Adar a freiliche mazel dik month, and Misha nichnas Adar marbim simcha, when the month of Adar comes in, you already increase in joy. Is caused by Zion. Then we have to, in order to answer our original question, when do we increase in joy? Do we have to wait till the second Adar, or can we already increase in joy in the first Adar? The answer to that question will have to be, we have to do some research on finding out when do we celebrate the birth of Mishpatim. Do we celebrate in Adar Rishon, or do we celebrate in Adar Sheni? So we're going to look in two sources. We'll look in Halacha, and we'll look in the Gemara. So first of all, look in Halacha. So when it comes to Halacha, there are no halachas that specifically deal with how to commemorate Moshe Rabbeinu's. No halachas, no minhagim, no mitzvahs to commemorate Moshe. Besides this marbim b'simcha that we just did. However, there are halachas or minhagim associated with commemorating Moshe Rabbeinu's passing. It's brought in Shulchan Aruch that some people have a custom to fast on Zion. So the question is, which Adar do they fast? Those that have the custom of fasting on Zion Adar, which Adar do they fast? And the answer is, according to most of the Pasuk, first Adar. So we commemorate the passing of Moshe, the first Adar. With the birth of Moshe Rabbeinu and the passing of Moshe Rabbeinu falling on the same day is associated with our sages say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu Mimalish the same Tzadikim HaKadosh Baruch Hu fills the years of Tzadikim from day to day. And the day he was born is the day he passed away. So if, according to Halacha, we commemorate his passing on the first Adar, then surely his birth must also be somewhat associated with the first. That's one angle. Second angle is coming to the Gemara. There's a phenomenal Gemara in Masechta Sotah. The Gemara in Masechta Sotah talks about the concept of midah keneged. The Almighty repays people both in the attribution as well as reward, measure for measure. And one of the examples that the Talmud gives is Miriam. Miriam waited for Moshe 1 hour. And after Moshe's basket was put in the rivers, it says about the sister Miriam waited from a distance to observe what's going to develop over here. Right? Moshe made his mother put him in the basket, she put him in the river, couldn't do anything more to save him. So Miriam stood at a distance, waiting to see what would happen. Then the daughter of Pharaoh comes along to bathe by the river, and she sees the basket, and she had compassion, she felt compassionate, and she saved Moshe Rabbeinu. Then Miriam suddenly comes out of her hiding place, and she says, "Shall I go and fetch you a Jewish nursemaid to nurse the child?" He says, "Yes, please." And she goes and brings her mother, and Moshe Rabbeinu returned to his mother. So Miriam waited 1 hour on the side of Moshe Rabbeinu's basket to look after Moshe Rabbeinu. Therefore, she was rewarded that in Parshas Bahaloischa, when Miriam became struck with leprosy, the whole of Klal Yisrael waited for her 7 days. So waiting was rewarded with waiting. So the Gemara asks, that's not midah keneged midah, that's not measure for measure. Here it was only an hour, and here it's 7 days. The Gemara says that when it comes to retribution, it's exact measure for measure. When it comes to reward, the Almighty is generous. And he gives, although the type of reward is of the same nature as the mitzvah, but the amount of reward is given very generously. So even though she only waited 1 hour, she was waited for 7 days. Then the Gemara says This event, Moshe Rabbeinu was in the basket, right? And we don't know what's going to happen with him. And then suddenly, at the right time, in the right moment, Pharaoh's daughter turns up. And she feels compassionate. All very unusual events, right? So the Gemara gives us the background of the story. And it says, that day was the 6th of Sivan. The 6th of Sivan. And the Malachim came before the Almighty. And they said, Rabbi Shalom, the master of the world, the one who's destined to receive the Torah on this day should be smitten on this day. You're dealing here with Moshe Rabbeinu. He's the one who's destined to receive the Torah at Mount Sinai on the 6th of Sivan, on Shavuos. And you're going to allow something bad to happen to him on this day? Then the Gemara says another opinion. Another opinion is that it was the 21st of Nisan, which is the Shvi'ah Shel Pesach, the day of the splitting of the Red Sea. The Malachim came before the Almighty. They said, Rabbi Shalom, the one who's destined to lead the Jewish people in the song of Oz Yashir on this day is going to be smitten on this day. So the Gemara says, wait a minute. We know that Moshe Rabbeinu was born on Zayin Adar. So if he was born on Zayin Adar, the opinion that says it was the 6th of Sivan works perfect. Because from Zayin Adar till the 6th of Sivan is 3 months. And it says in the pasuk, she hid him for 3 months, then she could no longer hide, so she put him in the basket. Put him in the river. So from Zayin Adar to the 6th of Sivan, perfect timing, 3 months. But according to the opinion that says it was the 21st of Nisan, where do you get 3 months? From Zayin Adar to the 21st of Nisan is only 6 weeks. So the Gemara answers that year was a leap. And Moshe Rabbeinu was born Zayin Adar Rishon. And from Zayin Adar Rishon until the end of Adar Rishon is the majority of a month. In Halacha we say Rubei Kikula, the majority is like the entire. And then the entire month of Adar Shon. And then from the Rosh Chodesh Nisan until the 21st of Nisan is also a majority of a month. That's the 3 months. So at least according to one opinion, Moshe Rabbeinu was born in a leap year in the first Adar. So if we say Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, because that's when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, and that's what makes the entire month of Mazel a month, and that brought about the miracle of Purim, and that brought about the miracle of Pesach, so then surely Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha applies to the first Adar as well. Especially coming to what you, if I understood your question correctly, the first Adar is the proper Adar. The second Adar is an addition. Happens to be when it comes to Purim, we keep Purim in the second Adar. There's 2 opinions of how when to keep Purim in the first Adar and second. And we rule according to the opinion that says the second Adar, and their reasoning is Mismach Geula L'Geula, that we put the redemption of Purim as close as possible to the redemption of Pesach. But it doesn't mean that the second Adar is necessarily a more important Adar than the first. In fact, Ashkenazim for sure, possibly that a yard site that is kept in Adar is kept in the first Adar, primarily. Because the first Adar is the main Adar. When it comes to a birthday, it's a little bit different because, I'll tell you why. Because let's say the only time you have in halacha significance of a birthday is by a bar mitzvah and a bas mitzvah. Now, bar mitzvah and a bas mitzvah is meant to be 13 years in 1 day, or 12 years in 1 day. Meaning 1 day means entering into the 14th year for a boy and entering into the 13th year for a girl. So if you're born in a regular Adar, and it comes Adar Rishon, the year of your bar and bas mitzvah, you can't say that you've entered into the next year. So for a bar and bas mitzvah, you have to wait until Adar Sheni so that the year should be complete, so you're ready to enter into the next year. But that doesn't mean that Adar Sheni is the main Adar. In fact, Adar Rishon is for most issues the main Adar. So Mishanichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha, clearly according to this explanation, includes the first Adar. And if this being the case, so we find something very, very interesting this year. That is that if you count from this Friday, the first day of the Chodesh Adar, until 29th of the second Adar, right? So that's a total of 60 days. 60 days of joy. And what does the number 60 remind us of in halacha? Number 60 in halacha is the concept of batal b'shishim. that if we have something negative falls into something positive, you have 60 times as much positive as negative, it nullifies it. So the joy of the Jewish people for 60 consecutive days in the 2 months of Adar is a power to be able to nullify anything negative that stands in the way. The Mishanichnas Adar Marbim Simcha has the power to be able to nullify anything negative. It cause it to be completely nullified and should only be positivity, mazel, simcha, and positive things in the world. So, and even before we reach the Chodesh Adar, we wait till tomorrow night to get to the Chodesh Adar. It's a long time to wait. But the very fact that we're intending to embark on 60 days of joy, 60 days of being focused on how privileged we are to be Hashem's people, how privileged we are to have such a beautiful Torah and such beautiful mitzvahs, and that Hashem is with us, and that Hashem looks after us. To trust in Hashem, to have confidence in Hashem. But just the fact that we're preparing to embark on such 60 days, they're ready when it comes to a good thing. A good intention, already considers like done. So this is already enough to give us the merit to merit the real mismach geula legeula. We mentioned before the reason why we have Purim in the second Adar is mismach geula legeula. One geula is put next to the other geula. So the Rebbe says that mismach geula legeula can also work the other way around. First, we have the geula hamitis v'ashleima, complete and true redemption of Mashiach, and then shortly afterwards the redemption of Purim. So the month of Adar is already a Purim Dike Chodesh. We're holding just a day and a half before the month of Adar begins. Perfect time for Mashiach to come. Mismach geula legeula. Then we'll enter into the month of Adar with incredible joy that will lift us up above all challenges, above all issues, and will be simchas olam al rosham, incredible joy upon us. Did that address your question? Sir, yes. Which part did you not get? It just said. Question was, how come we nullify the negative? Said because this year we have 60 days of Adar, starting from the first day of Rosh Chodesh Adar Rishon, tomorrow night, going all the way to the end of Adar Sheni. We have a total of 60 days, and we know in halacha and have 60 times as much positive, right? If you have 60 times, you have a kosher chicken soup cooking, and a little bit of something non-kosher falls in. You go to the Rav to ask a shayla, he'll tell you, he wants to know the first thing is what was the ratio between the kosher and the non-kosher. And if the ratio was 1 to 60, then the 60 has the power to nullify that which comes in its way. Right? So when we have 60 days of Simcha, that's an incredible power. Tafshin Nun Beis. That's 1992. The Rebbe spoke very, very strongly. It was a leap year. The Rebbe spoke very strongly about this power of 60 days. In fact, the Puna Halprin, that you see the rest then, the Rebbe also nights for Puna Tziyartzah, right? And the Rebbe spoke to him very strongly about this power in 60 days of Adar to nullify anything which is not 100% the way it should be. Okay, so the question was, what if the negativity is more than one? So the answer is like this, that darkness has no substance. It looks overwhelming, but it has no substance to it. Kedusha is truth, and that's real substance. So we have to realize always that it says in the Shiur, Nos Yashir, it says, sus Pare. The horse of Pare came with chariots and riders. So the Parshas asked why Pare came with more than one horse. He came with the whole army, right? It says before the Almighty, they're all considered like one. Darkness has no substance. So it might look overwhelming, but it's got no true substance. One mitzvah that a Jew does, especially to do it with joy, has such a power that it could dissolve all the darkness instantaneously. Yes? Really? Mm-hmm. Correct. If you're born in the 7th, okay, the question was over here, so we have Mrs. Morris here, whose birthday is the 7th of Adar, just like Moshe Rabbeinu. She was born in the 2nd Adar. So It's obvious that you're born in the second Adar, your birthday is the second. But and that's another reason why Adar is a Mazel Tov.
Does it say
Yeah. So the question now again: where does it say when Purim should be kept when there's two Adar? So in the Talmud and the Gemara, there's two opinions. One opinion says that you keep it the first Adar. One opinion says you keep it the second Adar. The one that says you should keep it the first Adar is because right away, why should you postpone it? The one that says the second Adar is because Mismach Geula LeGeula. You should put one redemption next to the other redemption. Right? So because we follow the halacha is like the opinion that says Mismach Geula LeGeula, that we keep a redemption next to redemption. So we kept the main Purim is kept the second Adar. But in the first Adar, you still have Purim Katan. The 14th of the first Adar is the minor Purim. And the 15th of the first Adar is the minor Shushim Purim. It's going to be 2 weeks, Friday and Shabbos. One minute. Let me just finish answering your first question. And as a result of that, the Purim that we're going to celebrate in 6 weeks' time is called Purim Gadol, the great Purim. Because it's compared to the small Purim, the minor Purim that we kept in the first Adar, the one in the second Adar is called Purim Gadol. On a regular year, it's just called Purim. But on a leap year, it's Purim Gadol, the great Purim. What was the next question? I'm sorry. Correct. Okay, very good question. The answer basically is, I'll give 2 parts to the answer. The months, the question was, why do when we have a leap year, do we add an extra Adar rather than an extra Nisan or extra any other month? So the answer comes from one of two angles. Simple answer is that the first month of the year is Nisan. Right? So if you have to add an extra month, you add it at the end of the year. The last month is Adar, so you add an extra Adar. Okay? And on top of that, one of the main reasons why we have a leap year is that Pesach should always be in the spring. The Torah says that Pesach has to be b'chodesh ha'av, in the month of the spring. So Nisan has Pesach. So before we get to the month of Nisan, we have to make sure that we're in the right season. So, for example, now that we're just the beginning of February. So if we would have Adar now and only one Adar, so we would finish Adar at the beginning of March. So then Pesach, and that would be Rosh Chodesh Nisan. The Pesach wouldn't be in the spring. The month of Nisan wouldn't come out in the spring. So we delay it by putting in an extra Adar so that Pesach should be in the spring. Okay? Yeah. The question is, are there special laws for Purim Katan? There are some. There's one chapter in Shulchan Aruch about the dinner of Purim Katan, the Shushim Purim Katan. Maybe we can elaborate on that more closely. Okay, so we're going to move on to Tanya. We are in the middle of chapter 51, Perek Nun Aleph, and we're ready to start the new paragraph, which starts on page Ayin Beis.
269 and 270.
Thank you very much. 269, 270. So if I can remind everyone, this is quite a challenging chapter, or group of chapters here. We are in the last 3 chapters of first section of Tanya, we're dealing here with the question of what is the meaning of Shechinah? What is the meaning of Shechinah? Divine presence rests upon it. What does it mean when our sages say that the Shechinah, the divine presence, rested in the Holy of Holies? What does it mean when they say that when there's 10 Yidden, the Shechinah dwells? Someone studying Torah, the Shechinah dwells with them. What is the Shechinah? The Almighty is everywhere. So if the Almighty is everywhere, then what does it mean that His presence is manifest in a certain place? What is going on in the Holy of Holies, in the Beis Hamikdash, that's not going on anywhere else? You told me that it's the Shekhinah, the presence of the Almighty's presence is everywhere. So this oft expressed statement of Chazal, Shechina Sheira, the Shechina dwells in this circumstance, this place. What is the Shechina? So we said it's a complicated question. It needs a complicated answer. And we were going to approach it by first understanding a parallel concept in the human condition. That is, where is the soul? Where's the neshama? On one hand, the neshama must be equally everywhere in the whole body. Your own neshama. Yeah. And our neshama is in us. Right? In what part of us? So obviously the neshama is an indivisible entity. And therefore you can't say that the neshama is partly in your brain and partly in your heart and partly in your liver, partly in your lungs. The neshama is present everywhere in its entirety. On the other hand, there's clearly something going on in the brain which is unique and different from the rest of the body. And there's clearly a life force coming from the brain to every other part of the body. And that is specifically tailored in accordance with the condition and with the characteristic of that part of the body. So, for example, the eyes get the power of vision, and the ears get the power of hearing. So every part of the body gets life force from the brain, vitality from the brain, which is specifically geared and tailored to its specific characteristics. So this indivisible neshama that we said that's equally everywhere seems to be doing some tricks that don't seem to fit with its indivisibility. So we know that there is the essence of the neshama, which is indivisible and equally everywhere. Then we see that that it's expressing itself and it's reaching out to different organs and limbs of the body. Different. So what does that mean? Does it mean that the neshama actually has 613 compartments and each compartment is intended for one part of the body? Or is there only one neshama? And then how do all the different organs and limbs of the body get their specific life force that is intended for them uniquely? So we went on to explain that essentially there are three levels. There's the soul itself, which is an indivisible entity which is equally everywhere in the body. It's no more, your head is no more alive than your feet are. If you're alive, you're alive. If you're not alive, you're not alive. And you're alive because your neshama is in you, and your neshama is equally present in every part of the body. It's not subject to divisibility at all. Then there is, within the neshama, there is some kind of a unit from which the individual manifestations of vitality from the neshama can be extended into the different parts of the body. So there's the neshama, and then there is what's called the Mishkan HaNeshama, the indwelling of the neshama. And that Mishkan HaNeshama is in the brain. It expresses itself in the brain. And that's why the most intense or the most sophisticated vitality expressions are in the brain. Your ability to understand, your ability to feel, your ability to be aware, that's all in the brain. So the most powerful forces of the second stage of the Mishkan HaNeshama, because that is invested in the brain. So therefore, in the brain, you have the most acute expressions of the presence of the neshama. It's only the expressions of the presence of the neshama. The neshama itself is everywhere the same. The question is, where is it expressing itself? So it expresses itself in the strongest way in the brain, because that's where the unit from which all expression extends from is present. And then from there, there are extensions of vitality that are drawn to every part of the body through very specific contractions and focusing the energy and the life force in a specific way to every organ and every limb of the body in accordance with its unique character. So that the eyes get the vitality that the eyes need to get, and the ears get the vitality that the ears need to get, and it's vitality to keep them alive, as well as energy and abilities to give them the energetic force and the ability that they need to be specifically who they are and what they are, and to do so successfully. And God forbid if a person suffers a stroke, and there's a lack of flow from the communication from the brain to various parts of the body, that part of the body will suffer because that chayis, that life force, is coming to it from the brain. So you need that connection to the brain to be able to function properly. Right? So, as a challenge. So Mrs. Morris is saying that there's a physical connection through the nerves. And what I'm going to say is that the physicality of the nerves is a vessel in which the energy of the neshama can express itself, can flow through, and through that way make it achieve what it needs to achieve in every part of the body. But what we primarily want to differentiate over here is between the essence of the neshama and the manifestation of it. And in the manifestation of the neshama itself, there's two parts. There's the source of that manifestation, and then there is the extension of that manifestation of each individual limb and organ of the body. So the source of that manifestation, which is not the essence of the neshama, is in the brain. And the extension of that manifestation is in every single organ and limb of the body in accordance with its character. Okay? So if we want to know where is the neshama, what are we referring to? Are we referring to the essence of the neshama? That's equally everywhere. Are we referring to the source of the manifestation of the neshama, that unit from which all manifestation of the neshama extends itself? That's in the brain. Yes. 100%, yes. That's called the godly neshama, the godly soul. Yeah, so we're talking here primarily to understand, we're using this analogy to understand how things are in heaven. So we're talking about the human being, and what we're saying over here is true also of the animal soul. Of the animal soul, it's true. An animal also has a soul, and it has a brain, and these truths that we're discussing now would probably apply in an animal also, and surely would apply in an animal soul and its relationship with the body. Happens to be that we are very fortunate as we have a nefesh, we have a godly soul. And therefore, all these things apply to the godly soul also. But we're differentiating here, the discussion over here about getting clear the differentiation between the soul itself, which is the indivisible entity, the energies and life and vitality that are reaching this from the soul to all the different parts of the body in a way that clearly is divisible, because it's each part of the body gets a different kind of life force, a different kind of energy, and a different kind of ability. And the connection between the two is the fact that there is a unit from which is absorbed within the soul itself. And that unit is the source of all the manifestation of the soul. So it turns out to be three different levels. The essence of the soul, which is everywhere equally, but not manifest. The source of the manifestation, which is primarily in the brain. And the extension of the manifestation, which comes into every limb and organ of the body in accordance with its unique. Where's the connection between the neshama and consciousness? I'm just repeating the question so that people on Zoom can hear the question. So this is exactly where it is, because this mishkan hanefesh that we're talking about, which is the unit from which all the manifestations of the soul extend themselves, is invested in the brain. So I would think that's where the consciousness is. The consciousness is the neshama, and the subconsciousness is the neshama. But you are aware of it through your brain, because it's invested in your brain. Yeah, and then there's the subconsciousness is often deeper than that which is manifested in the brain. So yes. It's beyond. It's indivisible. It cannot be divided. You can't say stick a little bit here and you stick a little bit there. It's an entity which is larger and greater than divisibility. Now the question is, where is it felt most? If you're asking where it's felt most, that spark of God. Yeah. So you could say that often it expresses itself in the emotion. It's in the neshama. It is the neshama, and it's in us. That spark is part of the neshama, which is in essence not limited by space. When the person is alive, a phenomenal thing happens. That something which transcends space is invested in a physical body, and that's a wonder of Hashem. And that's why we say Reifei Chol Basar Umafli Lasos. The word mafli is the word ele. It's a wonder. The connection of the neshama and the body is a wonder. The neshama is a spiritual, transcends space, and it's invested in a physical body. It's a piece of flesh. That's a wondrous thing. Now, when the neshama is released from the body, then the neshama functions the way it's meant to function in a not limited way. The body limits the neshama. It's a spiritual aliyah and a spiritual neshama. It means that the neshama reaches a higher spiritual level than that until now. The neshama reaches a greater height. But we're talking here spiritual heights. We're not talking about physical places. Okay? It doesn't go on to climb Everest. So if I understood the question correctly, the question was if somebody is disabled, and therefore let's say he can't speak, is the neshama still in that way? So I think what we said before should I think very clearly, there's the neshama, and there's the way the neshama manifests itself through giving the person life and through giving the person the ability to function, giving every limb and every organ the ability to function. Now, if a person is disabled, like for example, if he cannot speak after a stroke or something, not forbid. So clearly, there's a problem with the manifestation of the energy that the neshama is sending that from the brain to that part of the body. Somewhere not coming through properly. But the existence of the neshama, which is an indivisible entity in the entire body, is not affected by that at all. And therefore, the person is just as alive as they were before. It's only the specific expression of that life through the nerves or whatever comes from the brain to that specific organ or limb and give it the ability to do what it does is not functioning properly. But the neshama is still there. Okay. So once we've clarified all that, we have to move on to the nimshal. So what does it mean in the case of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the Almighty? How does that help us understand what Shechina is? So he begins now at the top of page Ayin. And he says, in the very same way as it is in the analogy of the human being. Same is true with the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, the infinite one blessed. He is Memale Kol Almin Lahafyesa. We know that the Almighty fills all the worlds and gives life to all the worlds. In each one of the worlds, there are endless creation. Myriads of myriads, Minei, Madregas, Malachim, Shamas, various levels, angels and souls, Kulu, etc. And that in each world itself is endless levels. How many worlds there are is also without limit. It goes higher and higher and higher. So the question, of course, is where is the Almighty? So we're going to find a similar answer that we had when we asked, where is the soul? The Almighty is the soul of the world, right? Of the system of worlds, of the whole order of worlds. The Almighty is the soul of it all. So where is he? So behold, The essence of the infinite one, blessed be He, Shava Be'el Yainim B'Tachtonim, is equally present in the highest worlds as He is in the lowest world. The Mashal HaNeshama Hanal, like the example that we gave in the previous paragraph of the Neshama being present in the entire body. The Neshama is an indivisible entity, and it's equally present in every part of the body. As it says in the Tikkun Isaiah, the Almighty is the concealed one of all the concealed. What does that mean? Kiddush, that means there are the revealed world, and there's the concealed worlds. They're the worlds that we can relate to. Worlds that are so lofty, they are totally concealed from us. They are the concealed worlds. So even in the most concealed worlds, who sasim v'nelam b'soicham, he is concealed and hidden within them. The Moshe who sasim v'nelam b'tachtonim, exactly as he is concealed and hidden in the lowest one. In other words, the essence of God is no more present and no more expressed, no more revealed in the highest of the highest worlds than it is in the lowest of the lowest. Because every world, by definition, is in some way limited. Just the fact that it can be described as different from another world is already a limitation. God is infinite, and infinity is as distant from the highest limitation as it is from the lowest limitation. So his essence is concealed even in the highest realm. And therefore he's called the concealed of all the concealed. Because even those worlds which we describe as the most concealed worlds, within them, the Almighty himself is completely concealed. He's no closer to the highest world of Atzilus than he is to a piece of potato. Because even the highest spiritual realms are still finite, and he is infinite. He less machshava tfisa beikral, because no thought can grasp him whatsoever. Afilu ba'elam asolim, even in the highest worlds. The nimtza, so it follows, k'meisha matzu sham, hach nimtza v'tachtenim. Just like he's present in the highest realm, he's present but not comprehended. He's present but not felt. And exactly in the same manner, he's present in the very lowest realms. He is fully present and not at all felt, not at all comprehended. So if you're talking about the essence of God, is the essence of the soul comprehended in the brain? No. Is it comprehended in the toe? No. Is it present in the brain? Yes. Is it present in the toe? Yes. The same way, the Almighty, the essence of the Almighty, is equally present in the highest spiritual, esoteric realm as it is in the lowest ordinary realm. Is it comprehended in either of them? No. So when we're talking about the essence of the neshama, it's equally present in every part of the body. When we're talking about the essence of the Almighty, it's equally present in every world. Where is there going to be a difference? So when it comes to the human body, you say, what's the difference between one part of the body and another? How the soul manifests itself in that part of the body. How does the energy and the life force that is extending itself from the soul through that part of the body, how is that felt? How is that comprehended? How is that taken in by that part of the body? And we're going to see a similar thing over here. How much does each world pick up? How much does each world take in, absorb, experience the energy that's coming from the Almighty to that world? Here there's already a difference between the higher worlds and the lower worlds. Now, since the essence of the Almighty is indivisible, so how could it be that as a result of his essence, there's a difference in one world from another world? His essence is not subject to divisibility. His essence is not subject to be chopped up to pieces. You said the greater piece of God in the higher world and the lower piece of him in the lower world, and no pieces. Same thing with the neshama. The neshama is also not chopped up to pieces. So what does it mean that the neshama is more felt in the brain than it is in the toe? So we explained that in addition to there being the neshama itself, there is the mishkan hanefesh, which is that source, that unit from which the manifestation of the soul extends itself. Similarly, in the case of the Almighty, there's the essence of the Almighty, and then there is his manifestation. And his manifestation, as it is in the unit which contains the essence of his manifestation. And then from that unit, there's an extension of manifestation which differentiates one world from another. So we have the Almighty himself. Then we have his Shekhinah, which is the essence of his manifestation, the source of all manifestation. And then there is the way from the Shekhinah itself, there's an extension of his energy and his creative powers that's coming to each and every world and each and every creation in accordance with its unique character and its unique ability to do. And we're going to see further, as we go further in the chapter, the comparison of these two truths, the soul and its relationship with the body, the Almighty and his relationship. We're on track. We're getting an idea of where we're going. Okay, we're going to hold it over here. Wish everybody a very freilich Chodesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.